Well, today's news is absolutely fascinating. Do you remember the story that was circulating quite recently that apparently some bigwigs at Square Enix were really worried, almost panicking about Final Fantasy XVI pre-orders? Well, we've got some clarity to that story as well as, of course, the demo being out, because there's a lot to talk about there. Also, a fairly interesting situation with Square Enix sort of having a competitor to Splatoon that everybody laughed at, but maybe actually does have something going on with it. And then the situation with Ubisoft. Things looked really goddamn dire, but now they've actually showed off some of their longer term projects, and there's plenty worth talking about there. And for a wild story, the Embracer Group has entered restructuring. This actually does impact quite a lot of games. And if you're interested in Space Marine 2, that's Embracer. Anything that Gearbox makes, like Borderlands, that's Embracer. And so many other things because they are so goddamn humongous. But not as humongous as the benefits from today's sponsor. Gotta level with you, I've got a pretty big case of gamer brain. So, I'm fixing that. And if you want to learn maths and computer science, essentially become a modern day wizard, then interactively break down big problems into small, easy to understand ones with brilliant.org/Bellular News, where the first 200 will get 20% off an annual plan, and there's a 30-day free trial. Now, do you like the number crunching that goes into games, things like that? Do you want to, well, make stuff? In that case, get started with the fundamentals of computer science, a 3-part course that takes you through the pillars of the field. And once you've done that, you can hit up your neural nets and your algorithms to give you a big understanding of how things actually work. Now, for me, one of my favorite channels on YouTube is Sabina Hossenfelder, and she does quantum mechanics with Sabina, and there it is. It's on Brilliant. It's cool to see her course there, and just in keeping with her channel, it is really fantastic. Most recently, I was going through the material there on like light, lens polarization, which of course is the nice paddling pool version until we get way more deep into how all that spooky quantum mechanics actually works, which is really fun and fascinating. And approaching this as an adult, for me, I get a sense of accomplishment, kind of boosts my day a little bit, and I think it's important to just stay sharp. So, Brilliant's awesome, and be it these fields or many others, they have thousands of courses, you've got to check out what they've got. Their material is absolutely incredible, and you can get started where the first 200 to click my link, brilliant.org/Bellular News, will get 20% off an annual plan, and of course, right there, you'll find a 30-day free trial, so why not just start right now? FF16 then. So, going into this whole Summer Games Fest season, Square Enix announced on the 18th of April that they would be running a pre-launch celebration for the game. And then on the 2nd of June, an industry insider, Imran Khan, published on his weekly Patreon newsletter some interesting details that he had heard. That FF16 numbers were actually tracking behind FF15 numbers, even accounting for the console exclusivity situation and it not having a simultaneous PC release date. And this was quite relevant then, because sales for the FF7 remake had apparently slowed faster than Square Enix had expected. So they're probably wanting to push up their marketing for this game to increase the mind share and increase the sales. So basically an initial story of some bits of evidence looking not particularly great for a game that, at least per its core fan base, is something that's really, well, people are freaking excited. A lot of fuss was made about this, but to quickly move on, the pre-launch celebration hit, and it then became quite clear that Square Enix's plan was one of shock and awe, a massive marketing burst to hit 2 weeks before release. Many influencers were in fact flown out and given a bunch of deals, right? Being able to make content based on a freshly revealed demo for the game. More merchandise was revealed. It was given its own full showcase outside of the PlayStation exclusive marketing deal. And for some color on the influencer side, as an example, Jerma loved it so much that he played the Combat Challenge stuff despite not having a sponsorship. Lyric in his chat were absolutely in love, right? So 25,000 viewers. I've never been this hyped up by a demo. It was almost like a movie in itself. It was the perfect display of what the game is. And when you say that to 25,000 people, and those 25,000 people then say that to their friends, that is incredible viral marketing. Now, a lot of this makes sense, and we actually had another industry insider, get some words from the mouth of Square Enix marketing director. And this is what he said. So our source basically said that they should note that the rumor is about Square Enix Japan being absolutely terrified about low pre-order numbers, and that this person is not from the Japan office. But with that disclaimer said, this is what they said. Pre-orders are within expectation. The marketing director for FF16 is aware they are facing a lot of competition for video game players' attention and purchases this year. Quote, they're spoiled for choice in the market right now, but, quote, pre-orders are tracking and they feel they just need to push the title more. Of course, this was on the 12th of June. The demo is out. The demo has gone amazingly, I think, in terms of people's reception response. And maybe going to that idea of shock and awe, it's a situation of like, right, there are so many games, so many things vying for people's attention. The release date for our game is fairly close to when a lot of games are being announced, so there's just a lot of news going on. Maybe that's why they've just decided to go hyper hard within 2 weeks, likely to make it some sort of large cultural event. And to be honest, if the strength of the demo is anything to go by, I think this game will be just fine. Certainly seeming to be better than the rather troubled FF15. And the marketing has been big. As an example, the Champions League final is set to reach 450 million broadcast viewers worldwide. The minute-by-minute average audience is about 150 million. So that's pretty big for your, your big live TV trailer. Now, as for the demo, it's kind of key because your progress in the demo actually does carry over to the main game. This means you can get started early without feeling like you're going to be compromising your experience or wasting time. Funnily enough, with our demo for the Pale Beyond, you're actually able to do that as well and transfer your save over to the main game. I think it's a really good feature the devs should do when they can. The demo is then allowing them to sell people in the new combat style, right? The demo actually includes basically a combat arena demo that is separate from the story if you just want to go and engage in the new combat system, which, by the way, I've been talking to Matt about it, and he's basically extremely glowing. They've simplified a few things, I think, for accessibility, but what works is just how goddamn good it all feels and comes together. Also, the demo can sell people on the new tone and direction, which the developers and players are calling a bit more Game of Thrones inspired. Now, you should remember, whenever you hear Game of Thrones, obviously, we all think about, I guess, the writing really declining from season 5 to 8, especially season 7 and season 8 just being, and especially 8, being shit shows from a writing perspective. I would say, though, go less TV show adapted by those two morons and go more George R.R. Martin like world building, things happening, right? Things feeling a little bit more grounded, a little bit more gritty. I think that kind of thing. And given how a lot of this team has been extremely successful with their narratives in FF14, I would feel highly confident they would be able to pull that tone off very, very successfully. There is a bit of a criticism with the demo that does have some people worried, though, that performance is sometimes not consistent. So if it's not consistent, but Square Enix themselves said that, oh no, this is going to be a great day one, because they were very bullish about how good the day one experience is going to be. So a few people have kind of, they're a little bit worried that there have been some FPS hits, which certainly we don't want to have happen. Right, that's the situation. Overall then, what's up with this story? I think that this game's probably going to be fantastic. I get the feeling it's going to be extremely impressive in a way that I suppose a lot of FF games maybe haven't been. I just think that this game will be able to hit a far broader audience than some previous FF, certainly at least in the HD era. So, going to be fascinating. I can't wait to play it. To move on then, don't judge a book by its cover apparently, because one of the things that used to be good, at least with E3, is the idea that no matter what was shown off at a showcase or whatever, people could actually play games and share their opinions. People have played Foam Stars, and apparently, between the controls, between the way that foam is like a very 3D, like physical object, and the character abilities, it actually is a game that is worth playing, that people are really enjoying. So an example then of people actually playing the game, and I think that cutting through a lot of the initial sort of reactive discourse. And there's another example of that happened. It was one that disappointed me. It was a lot of people being seemingly very angry at Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I suppose thinking this isn't a real Prince of Persia. Of course, this is people who don't understand that Prince of Persia was a 2D side-scroller. that Prince of Persia, the Sands of Time that you're thinking of, that's not the first Prince of Persia. That being said, the Prince of Persia remake, that was a bit of a disaster. Seemingly, development has been rebooted in that. So this game did not actually get the best reactions to the trailer, but actually, it is seemingly fantastic from what people are saying. And that should not be surprising, actually. It's made by Ubisoft Montpellier. Now, they did the Rayman games. Those Ubisoft Rayman games are absolutely fantastic. The 2D ones. The art is gorgeous. The gameplay is really great. Looking at the demo, honestly, the combat in this seems really fun. Just overall, a great example of reactions, sometimes not useful. It actually turns out that Foam Stars and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown are, well, being well received by people who have actually played them. Next, it's been a very doomer situation for a very long time with them. They've had to delay so many titles, and they've had so many misfires. It could be, though, that things will be a bit stronger. So the Ubisoft Forward showcase was certainly a statement of intent saying, yeah, we're releasing games now. They've got near monthly releases from now until summer 2024, and let's get into that. So, X-Defiant, right? Its spiritual successor to a certain era of COD, very much made, very much developed with that community. It's been very well received in its test periods. They've responded to feedback, and that's actually coming out fairly soon in August, alongside some playtesting for Skull and Bones. Then we've got The Crew Motorfest, September 14th. Assassin's Creed Mirage, October 12th. Mirage, by the way, I'm really excited for. I think about the location and the time period, and that it's harkening back to that perhaps smaller in scope, but more focused Assassin's Creed experience that for many of us like myself is what got us into that franchise at the start. They do have a gap in November, but it's one that Skull and Bones would be able to fill if they think that Skull and Bones is releasable. There are some other late 2023 releases like The Division Resurgence on mobile and Assassin's Creed Nexus on virtual reality platforms. Then in December, we've got Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora by Massive Entertainment. I think bringing some Far Cry-ish vibes to the big Avatar universe, which honestly, like, Avatar, the movies, in terms of like plot and stuff like that, they're really quite weak. A lot of the world building, the detail that's went in there, and the art design is extremely strong, though. I almost feel that a video game is one of the ideal formats to explore that world. And then, allegedly, in March, we'll be getting Star Wars Outlaws. And I've got to say, Star Wars Outlaws really positively surprised me whenever I looked at it. I mean, I looked at it and I thought, oh, this doesn't immediately reek of an Ubisoft open world. It doesn't look like the most hyper-engaging gameplay in the world, but it does look like it looks fun and serviceable, which if I'm doing a big sort of role-playing game adventure is all that I really need. I do like the little axolotl buddy that you have. I like the tone of the game. I was absolutely very pleasantly surprised by what I saw of that, which to me is fun because I like the idea of Massive being able to do more than just The Division. So really, between this and the Avatar game, I'm kind of hyped for what Massive can do. And man, like, I'm assuming that a lot of this is in the Snowdrop engine. Yeah, Snowdrop looks really good, which shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, we know what Snowdrop can do. It's just they were rarely able to actually ship that with The Division. Okay, so final main story before we highlight some showcase games from our team then. Embracer, quite rough. There was a fairly disastrous financial report for them that was led by a collapsed licensing deal that was worth a gigantic sum of money. Their shareholders and management are basically now tightening their belts. They've released an open letter disclosing their plans to restructure the whole group. Basically, it's to go from current heavy investment mode to a highly cash flow generative business this year. They're going to achieve this by lowering net debt, optimizing growth, lowering risk, and increasing their margins, and a reduction of 10% of overheads. In order to do this, they will need to heavily consolidate, restructure companies in the group, and yes, they say, have a year of layoffs as all of this goes on. This is also going to see the company close or divest studios, pausing or terminating projects, and reducing third-party publishing. I think it's one of those situations. They have a lot of IP, right? They have a lot of that good stuff, but they now need to utilize that effectively. And if they are constantly putting their operational focus on just grow, 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 expand, 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 it could be challenging then, because maybe the top of the company won't be as aligned with the actual games that they are putting out. Now, it was interesting, though, for Embracer at Summer Game Fest. Of course, there was Return to Moria, which I suppose you can see it as Deep Rock Galactic, but, you know, Tolkien Dwarfs in the Mines of Moria, which, to be honest, I can see it fitting. I'm not exactly sure who asked for it. I guess you dig too deep, see what happens. Last Train Home. What I'm extremely hyped for, though, Space Marine 2, hell yeah. Remnant 2, Star Trek Infinite, and Payday 3. I think Payday 3 also a real safe bet, and a game that I definitely do actually want to have out there in the market. There's, of course, many games we don't know about, and for many developers, this now means that they're going to suffer basically from the mistake of their Embracer overlords, right? People are going to lose jobs, including people who are in companies that have been acquired by the group. So essentially, it's what you would expect if you actually look at what the group has done. Too many acquisitions, too quickly. When you acquire all those companies, you're going to have duplication between your groups. There's going to be a lot of inefficiencies. And then when it comes to the actual games, I mean, Saints Row, like, there's that. That was a $100 million disaster. In fact, they said that 10 of their 14 big releases didn't break even. And yes, it is the case that it's a bit of the 80-20 principle. You will always have more losses than wins. Your job is to have your wins be so much larger than your losses, because you do things smart. And that's just the way that it is. Pretty damn rough for them. Now, some games we want to showcase from our team. Right, Matt, what are his top games? Well, for him, it's actually Spider-Man 2. He does like character action, and it is Final Fantasy 16. He said he played the demo, felt like he did when he played FF10 and FF13, except the game is extremely good and DMC light. That the ending of the demo is outright traumatic in how hard it hits, makes God of War and The Last of Us look amateur. So that's certainly a statement. The most engaging story in a video game most people will ever experience. So suffice to say, Matt's pretty interested in FF16. As for Connell, who may or may not be editing this very video, Star Wars Outlaws. No Man's Light. Star Wars the focus on exploring the universe, paired with Massive's solid showings in mission and gunplay design with the Division games, not taking the easy win approach with a very direct application of like multiplayer co-op stuff is also intriguing. And yes, I think we're definitely in agreement with this. 1313, Project Ragtag, these things looked kind of cool. In this case, it feels like we're actually going to get some of that experience. I think it is that more messy, nebulous, lived-in part of the Star Wars universe that to most of us is the appealing thing. So we're getting that's pretty sweet. And also Clockwork Revolution. In Exile, make pretty incredible games. This is in Exile going to something different. And I like Connell, I'm really, really excited. As for Connor, who does a lot of the research and writing with our videos, for him, Citizen Sleeper, it was his game of the year. Citizen Sleeper, fantastic game. Actually, also a game published by the same publisher as us, Fellow Traveler. Very, very cool to see Citizen Sleeper get its sequel. I'd highly recommend playing Citizen Sleeper. Yeah, so pretty cool. Also, you get a spaceship in this, which, for reasons you'll probably learn at some point, is very big thumbs up to me. And also, for Connor, it's got to be Space Marine 2. And this is where I absolutely agree. I mean, man. So, this is actually made by the developers of World War Z. Now, World War Z was an absolute sleeper hit that did super well. And one of the real cool things about the World War Z game is their crowd zombie tech. It just allowed for so many zombies. But in this case, it's so many Tyranids. Which, I mean, yeah, just hell yes. Everything that I've seen of this game makes it look like something that I want. I am really, really excited. And as for my personal picks, well, actually, I've got a few here. Starfield. It's totally up my alley. I love science fiction. And I think the sort of NASA light, but, you know, tracked forward in time with maybe some goofy shit, that does seem pretty damn good to me. Also, Outlaw. I'm excited to see basically what Massive are able to do when it's not the Division. And I thought its showcase was very strong. Citizen Sleeper 2 is also there for me. Space Marine 2 is also there for me, as is Assassin's Creed Mirage. For me, that's a mixture of genuinely being interested in everything that they're saying about it, mixed in with a little bit of nostalgia, and I think some hope that that older format of Assassin's Creed, with a lot of the, you know, the modern tech, modern design lessons, that they probably will be able to do something quite special there. And then for me, Phantom Liberty. And I say this less out of pure raw excitement, but more that it seems to be of a scope that it's going to make me actually playing Cyberpunk be worth it. Kind of unlocks that game experience for me, which is something I'm very much interested in. So there you go. That is the news today. We've went over a bunch of stuff from Ubisoft Forward, a lot of those big game announcements that we've had over the last few days, and a little bit of, I suppose, rumor quashing discussion with FF16. Certainly, if it is anywhere near as strong as what Matt is saying, then I've got to imagine that it's just going to blast out, right? I mean, it's hard to have an Aerith moment now, because the Aerith moment, like, I don't want to say it was the first time that happened, but it was one of the first real big moments. So it's pretty hard to recapture that. But seemingly the demo does go hard to the point where I think this game is going to have pretty damn incredible word of mouth, especially if it is, in terms of its gameplay format and some of its tone, going to be a bit more accessible to a not core FF. So fascinating things going on in the industry. I hope you found today's video to be interesting. Of course, support our sponsor if you want to support what we do. And with that, I'll see you next time.